Jade Wolfman-Charles with the VA Maryland Healthcare System's Veterans Integration to Academic Leadership Program. We are here on the Towson University campus, partnering with Towson University. I wanted to let you all know that we are one of only 2 schools in the region partnering with the VA Maryland Healthcare System to bring you the VITAL program. VITAL's sole purpose is to support veterans through their academic pursuits, and we do this in a variety of ways. One is to provide on-site mental health counseling when and if necessary. The other is to provide some education and training to faculty and staff on how to create a more veteran-centric learning environment. And the third is care coordination, linking veterans to resources in the community and to the VA Maryland Healthcare System if necessary. As part of our education and training series, we are here today with Dana Hendrickson from Maryland Commitment to Veterans. She is the Regional Resource Coordinator, and she'll be talking to us a little bit more now about Maryland Commitment to Veterans.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. As was mentioned, I am a Regional Resource Coordinator with Maryland's Commitment to Veterans. My name is Dana Hendrickson, and for our program, I cover the Central Region, which consists of Baltimore County, which is here where Towson lies, as well as kind of the greater Baltimore metropolitan area, including Baltimore City. Maryland's Commitment to Veterans was actually an initiative, that initiated back in 2008. It came out of the governor's office in an effort to be able to assist recently returning veterans with accessing behavioral health services, such as mental health counseling and addictions treatment as needed. The really fabulous thing about our program is that we have a referral line. It operates 24/7, where veterans and concerned family members, community members, clinicians can call with questions about how to access various veteran services across the state, but primarily behavioral health. That number is 877-770-4801. And pretty much what happens when someone makes a call to the referral line is that they call a telerep line. It's a referral service that we use. The veteran or family member or community member provides just some limited information about kind of what's going on, provides their contact information as well as the county in which they live. And when that county is provided, the referral line knows then which resource coordinator to link that veteran with. So let's say if a Towson University student was calling the referral line, being that they're here in Baltimore County, they would get linked up with me.
So they get you yourself.
Yes, and that is what I think is just fabulous and ideal about the program, is that I would receive that referral and then contact the veteran back, and then we would engage in a discussion about whatever it is that's going on. Our kind of core mission, as I had mentioned, was to assist veterans with accessing behavioral health services. So depending on whatever it is that's going on, we talk to them about whether they want to access those services through the VA healthcare system, do a lot of educating on the clinics that are in the area, the vet centers that are in the area, talk to them about how even to just enroll in the VA, because sometimes veterans will call and they're not even enrolled in the VA, so we have to kind of talk to them about that process. And then there's times when a veteran, for whatever reason, maybe they're not eligible, or maybe they just, for whatever reason, they just don't want to access care through the VA. Being that our program is under the state of Maryland's Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, we then can talk to them about how to access services through the community through the Maryland's public mental health system. That being said, even though our core mission is to assist with behavioral health service coordination, we do receive a marked number of referrals from veterans pertaining to a variety of other issues. Oftentimes veterans are experiencing challenges financially, housing stressors, facing unemployment, questions about education benefits, questions about who do I go to talk to about filing a disability claim. So we really are kind of this like one-stop shop, I would say, for veterans across the state. And I've received calls from one end of the spectrum to the other, from veterans that are in need of financial assistance all the way up to veterans who are experiencing emotional crises, and we're able to assist them in getting the care that they need.
So really being a link to various community resources depending on what the needs are for the veteran at the time. And family members also call?
Yes, yes. I've worked with numerous spouses, significant others. Mothers have called with concerns. And we don't do, I guess you could say, case management per se, but I will say that, kind of when you're in the line of work where you're working with individuals, that there's that human element to it. We do follow veterans, and I have a veteran who called, last June, and I'm still in contact with both him and his significant other. So it's kind of on a case-by-case basis, where we may have a veteran that's just calling with a general question, and they just need a phone number, and we provide that information to them. And then we have other calls where we continue to check in and follow up with that veteran for months on end, depending on what their needs are. Yes?
So what are the hours that they can call?
The referral line operates 24/7. So referrals are taken 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but the resource coordinators, we are pretty much, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 8 to 4:30. I do a lot of outreach where I'm really engaged with the National Guard's Yellow Ribbon reintegration program, so we do periodically work on weekends as well. When a referral is made, we respond within 1 business day, but I will say that when the call is of a pseudo-crises nature, although we're not a crisis line, but if a veteran is calling and they're disclosing that they are seeking treatment or counseling services, or if they are currently homeless or at risk, or they have a pending eviction, those types of calls, really we're responding right away to those calls, because the referrals we receive come through our email, so we get them very, very quickly. I also wanted to mention, in addition to the kind of service coordination for behavioral health, we also have the ability to assist veterans with transportation, with providing funding for transportation to behavioral health appointments. So especially in the more rural areas of the state, where veterans just aren't close to a vet center, they're not close to a medical center or an outpatient health clinic, we're able to assist them to get to those behavioral health appointments and pay for that transportation for them.
Better utilize your services. What does Maryland's Movement Veterans not do, or when should vets necessarily not look to you for specific information?
That's an interesting question.
Because it sounds like you guys do just about everything.
We do. I honestly would say that regardless of whatever the issue is or the need is, to call. I have had calls, as I mentioned, where a veteran needed assistance with home repair, and another veteran who her stove had broken and she had limited finances. She needed financial assistance to purchase a new stove. She had custody of a couple of her nephews. Received calls from, again, as I mentioned, veterans who are clearly in crisis and in need of care. So really, we say everything and anything but the kitchen sink, or maybe including the kitchen sink at times. Whatever the issue might be, to please call. We have all had specific training in military cultural competence. I can say from a personal perspective that I'm a military spouse, so while I have never served in the armed forces myself, I joke sometimes that I feel like a veteran at times because my husband has served 3 combat tours. So I do live it in that sense indirectly on a daily basis. And again, just the really fabulous thing about this program that I love so much is that personal component to it. That it's not a matter of a veteran calling a hotline per se, and each time having to retell their story. Once they've told their story, they don't need to keep retelling it to me because I already have a feel for what it is that's going on. And I think that veterans and family members alike, they appreciate that because there's that personal component to it. And there really is, you know, a relationship that ends up getting developed. Now, we do not provide clinical services. We are not licensed. We all have counseling backgrounds, social work backgrounds, so we don't actually provide the clinical service. We do the clinical service coordination piece.
Help them to get to wherever they need to be.
Right.
Answer whatever questions that you can answer.
And it is confidential, which, you know, veterans appreciate that. We're, as I mentioned, we're under the state of Maryland's Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. We are not the VA, but we collaborate with them. Just as you and I are here doing this, we collaborate very heavily with them. And that's another really nice facet to the program is that we do everything within our power to connect a veteran to an actual person versus just saying, here's a phone number, call this. You know, it would be, you know, call John at the vet center in Baltimore, not just call the vet center, here's the phone number. And as part of our outreach, what I really like too is being able to describe to the veteran what an experience might be like, because the bulk of what we do is over the phone. I've only met with a handful of veterans face to face. So it's just really nice to be able to describe to a veteran over the phone what the vet center in Pikesville feels like when you walk in. What does the vet center in Annapolis feel like? What is it like? You know, what might you see?
What's the
Exactly.
procedure when you get there?
Right, right, exactly.
I know sometimes veterans are concerned about, you know, you spoke about confidentiality, what records are being kept on them, especially if they're thinking about going back in or whatever. Can you share with us a little bit about that, how you go about protecting veteran confidentiality?
Sure. We have a database that is through Service Point, which is a system that's used across the state. We get a verbal release of information from them, asking them for permission before we make any phone calls on their behalf. I always ask them for permission for, you know, to share the last four of a social, a date of birth, full name, circumstances that are, you know, going on in the veteran's life. We don't disclose anything without the veteran's permission, but because of the nature of our service, being that so much of it is done over the phone, it's really kind of impossible to get a written release, but we do at least get that verbal release from them. And I'm very specific in asking, who can I talk to? Not just a matter of, can I share your information, but specifically, who are you giving me permission to share information with?
So do any of the information ever end up on the veteran's medical records or any other type of record with the VA?
That's a really good question. No, the database that we utilize is completely separate and independent of any sort of VA database system.
Dana, thank you so much for coming out and for providing such useful information. It really sounds like Maryland Commitment to Veteran is a great resource that tries to fill in a lot of the gaps that are out there for veterans, and just getting them linked to all the resources. I think there are a lot of resources out there, but if you don't know about the resources, then it's not very helpful. So I think you're doing a great job filling that gap. Also just wanted to invite Patrick Young to say a few words before we get here.
Dana, thank you for coming, and everybody, thank you for listening in. This is one of some of the many series we're going to be providing through the Veterans Center throughout the next 2 semesters. If there are any questions or any concerns, or if you have any ideas for what you would like to see on these video series, please contact my office, 410-704-2991, or feel free to email me at pyoung@towson.edu. Thanks for listening, and thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.